Final Fantasy has done so much to help me. And I know it's a video game, right? And I know Angry Cupcake's probably gonna make fun of me, and I don't I don't blame him. But I don't know. As much as yes, it's just a video game, but the community I've met isn't. FF14, yes, it's just a video game, but the now friendships, with the exception of maybe one, but the friendships it's helped me formulate, and the community it's introduced me to, and the storylines it's gifted me with have been such a welcome boon through these really depressing last couple of years. And this Omega storyline was just amazing. It was great. And it followed the same vein as the whole Endwalker expansion storyline, which again was about fighting that inner darkness. You know, that depression, that sadness, and that you have to do everything in your power to not allow it overtake you. And it's stories like that they're universal, right? Like no human being on Earth owns a monopoly of that kind of story. Like it hits everybody, from the rich, the poor, the sickly, the healthy, the smart, the less intellectually endowed. It doesn't matter. It's depression or sadness at the very least. We don't want to use the specificity of the word depression, but sadness and dark feelings and bad emotions plaguing you. They hit everybody. And having that out, having stories like this that, as much as it is something that, if a person just sat you down and said, hey, don't let you need to think of the good times, you need to not let the bad stuff get to you. Well, most of us would ignore that, right? Because it's just not enough. It's too simple for such an entwined, entangled knot in your heart. But despite the fact that, in essence, what this story does is the same thing. It's sitting you down and it's encouraging you to focus on the good. It's the way that it did it, and it's the time that it took to do it that makes it more impactful and hit home better. And I don't know, stories like this is, again, as much as it's just a video game, but stories, at the end of the day, they're just, stories are just stories. But yet they can have profound impacts, and they can make you think, they can make you have self-introspection, they can encourage you out of dark places. And they also can have the opposite effect, but in this case, the story of Endwalker and the story of the wrap-up of the Omega Questline, I don't know, they really make you think, and they really make you reflect heavily upon how you... about the mentalities you hold, and they encourage you to think of ways to improve, and think of ways to make you think of ways in which maybe you're not considering to better yourself. I know I'm circling back to basically the same saying, but I don't know, it's stuff like that, and the way it encourages you by presenting like a character like Omega, which is like Data from Star Trek, who has absolutely like no concept of like the emotional entwinement that human beings have, and allowing us to see or hear through Omega's eyes and voice this confusion that emotions represent. It's almost comforting to understand that it's safe to not understand your emotions. It's safe to not have all the answers, because even a purely logical based machine with just logical thinking can't comprehend it, because it's not something calculable. It's not something you can break down into measurements or break down into numbers. It's not that simple. And in a weird, twisted way, that's comforting. It's comfort in there's comfort in knowing that it can't be understood, and it's not really meant to be completely mapped out and solutions so easily plucked from a data sheet or a chart or fucking projection markers. It's not something like that. It's far more complex. I don't know if for you guys I'm talking out of my butt, but I don't know. It's stuff like this that I find comfort in. And yes, it's just a video game. It's a fictional story written on paper. But I don't think that means it has any less value than a story written in a book or a conversation between a therapist and a client. Like, in many ways, this has more weight than those kinds of things, because instead of it being a conversation, which are good, and it's good to have conversations about these things, but it's simply presenting something to you, allowing you to think about it at your own pace and absorb it at your own rate, and completely pressureless in that thought process and in that emotional absorption. I don't know, I guess just something's more comforting in the presentation of these ideas in that medium. I love Final Fantasy XIV, man. I don't know if Ishikawa wrote the Omega questline there, but kind of feels like some of her writing. But if it's not, round the board credit to whoever wrote it. Regardless. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Make sure to like and subscribe.